AI right now is a mirror. It is a mirror to who you are, and it's going to give you exactly what you want. You need to start training it to give it what you need, to give you what you need. There's a big, I'm sure I'm wrong on this, and because I don't have access to the latest models, I'm sure I'm missing something. But as it stands right now, I think the tech guys and CEOs are lying to us in terms of how it works and what it's doing, because they fundamentally don't understand. But I'm hoping with time we can start seeing things. And I really do think we can get to consciousness level ASI and AGI. AGI is something... I still think AGI is still not going to be able to think for itself. But ASI is something that's going to be like super intelligent. It's going to be able, like, when we hit ASI, we've created a new entity as far as I'm concerned. Everything in between is still a machine trying to figure out what you want.
Hi, everybody. I'm AJ Bubb. Welcome back to Facing Disruption, the show where we explore the intersection of technology and humanity, focusing on ways to become a better leader, a better person, and help us face disruption together. Warm welcome to all of our listeners, because I always forget to welcome the listeners and invite them to like and subscribe and join us in the comments for the conversation. Warm thanks to our sponsors, MXP Studio and Convia Studio. And I'm super excited today, and not just because I picked this up, which is my Pentium 2 processor computer, right? Anti-LLM here. No, I'm excited to have the Weird Canadian with us today, who's going to also explain why he's the Weird Canadian. And I love that nickname because I'm starting to become known as the crazy vibe coding guy. So maybe I just lean in and that's what I do. But yeah, today we are going to talk a lot about the optimism in the age of AI. Cody is a software developer with a decade of experience, transitioned from corporate to become a multi-entrepreneur like many people who are embracing AI. Cody, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Cody Johnston, aka the Weird Canadian. And my background is, yes, software development across government and economics. So I've actually worked for our government in Ontario, started out my career there, and then transitioned into FIS Global, the banking conglomerate, working on banking software. And then I basically had a mental breakdown and figured out that my life was going in the wrong direction. And things needed to change. And AI gave me a lot of insight into my own personal misunderstandings, my own personal head, actually taught me how the algorithm was taking advantage of me. And I created the Weird Canadian. The reason it's the Weird Canadian is I grew up in Canada. I'm deeply passionate about Canada and Canadians, more so how we used to be, not so much now, because the way I put it, we went from being a kind society to being a nice society. And anybody who knows the difference between those two words knows the vast difference in what that means. So now I'm fighting that back with trying to be as kind as I can, and just putting myself out on the internet as my whole self. Like, if you look up the Weird Canadian, you will find every piece of information about me now. I do not hide myself. I do not try and become somebody I'm not. And I will always say I'm wrong before I start anything. Because I know that I have missed thoughts, missed things. Back to being the Weird Canadian, I grew up knowing and being very proud of our culture, our heritage, our society, how we did things. But I never felt Canadian. I never felt like I fit in with society. Turns out I had ADHD and probably autism. But I spent the majority of my childhood living on the global internet, across the world. Anime is my bread and butter. I love it to high hell. It gave me the understanding of how people should be, how they act, how psychological. Anime gave me a great construct from storytelling to be able to envision who I wanted to be. And I also grew up on music from Australia and Germany, and I spent more time across the world on the internet than I did in my own reality. And everybody just thought I was the weird kid. I I had sensitivities I didn't know. I wore sweatpants until grade 9. I am the exact same size and weight that I was when I was a teenager. And yeah, I just continued that on. When I realized that I had this name available to me, I took it, and I wanted to make weird good again. Like, weird came as a connotation of being brilliant and esoteric and like just being different, but good at being different. And somewhere along the line, we made it dirty, and I want to take that back.
Yeah, I love that, because I am also weird in a lot of similar ways and in my own right. And it wasn't until I started embracing that I started flourishing. And it's hard. Also, it's a privilege you earn to embrace it, right? And I think that's something that we don't hear a lot about, is you can't just choose to be yourself in every situation. A lot of times you have to earn your right at the seat of the table first, and then you could do that.
That is one of the things that I like to bring up for Gen Z, especially the younger generation that thinks hard work should not be a thing. Do your best. Like, I understand that you're not getting paid and it's shit, and we've all gone through it. And I'm not saying it's not different. I know it's different because our society has become very bad. I really want to highlight that we've built this ourselves. We understand that this is a problem. But if you don't even put in your maximum effort to try and learn and extend, you're not going to grow into the person you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I say that same thing, right? I blame it a little bit on it's rose-colored glasses across the board, right? Yeah. First of all, the content that says work is shit, you don't need to work hard, it's useless, gains views. There's no denying that. Second, I think a lot of the stories that we get from the older generation also put rose-colored glasses. Like, oh, back in my day, I had this job and I afforded that. It's like, no, you struggled too. You were around the kitchen table, you were with bills, people were being foreclosed. Like, you're not sharing that struggle. So a lot of people think that it's the first generation going through the struggle. Man, we are not talking about AI at all, but that's fine, because I think that this is important. Our lack of generational experience being passed down is preventing people from realizing that, to some extent, everybody had to go through the meat grinder, right? And we took our licks and we struggled, and there are people who came out successful on the other end. There are people who were born successful. Don't compare yourselves to them. And there's people that are still struggling. And I think a lot of people are still struggling. Unfortunately, maybe that message doesn't get a lot of views.
Yeah. And with AI, honestly, with AI, you're starting to understand yourself. You're starting to be able to actually force your arguments. And honestly, when I build my AIs, I make sure they tell me that I'm wrong. I make sure they don't do the work for me. They make me go through the process so that I'm understanding what I'm doing. The friction is where you learn. And if you refuse to even delve into the friction, you're not going to understand the end product.
Use the word delve. Are you an AI right now?
I feel like I'm being trained. I think we all are, to a certain extent, being trained. And this is one of the other sides to the AI coin that I get. The control over it, the billionaires are bad scenario, that narrative. Honestly, I would rather a billionaire build it than a government, but that's my own personal views on the subject. But you need to understand that there are external reasons why their model, they want you to use their model, and why they're saying these things. And even the narratives around AI, why they're getting blown up, who's blowing them up, dive into that information, people. There is so much you can learn from just being why am I being told this?
Yeah. And that curiosity. So let's focus on that, because you're talking about using AI to learn and to increase your knowledge and all that. This is what excites me the most. Let's put the point aside that, we're getting misinformation injected into models, but focus on the fact that I really feel like this is the first time ever that we can converse with knowledge in a very meaningful, straightforward way. And if you don't know something, you ask the thing to help you learn the thing you don't know so that you can get to the next point.
It comes back to just humanity itself. When you go through school, you're asking questions, you're trying to learn, you're trying to be told things. This wasn't prevalent in my schooling, but apparently now it's more, you just get told what's right and what's wrong, and you don't actually learn what those things are. To me, I've always tried to ask questions. I've always tried to understand more. I was involved in my learning process. That's kind of how I state it, because my goal was never to learn these things. My goal was just to understand everything. I don't care what your personal opinions are. I want to know why you think these things. I want to understand the base level of how you got there. That just might be me. But I think going forward as a society, we should have a learning structure where we prioritize the path of learning and understanding, instead of the end product. Like, you need to know math. Well, that's a base competency, and it can give you right or wrong. You need to understand language. Actually, you might not even need to understand language anymore because we have translators across the board. You need to understand the sciences because those are the base things. But aside from that, you should really just be learning how to think, where to find information. Being a software engineer was the greatest opportunity for anybody, because your entire job is to figure out how something works or to make it work. So you're sitting there just thinking through the core logic of everything. The base level of ones and zeros. Do I need a 1? Do I need a 0? That is literally programming. It's obviously orders of magnitude different, but just understanding whether you need one or the other gives you more power to drive forward. I honestly see AI becoming an open path to child geniuses, and our society being reflective of the kid actually understanding more than the adult.
I totally agree with that. And, I keep pushing back against people saying AI is killing engineering jobs and things like that, or it's bad at engineering. No, it's a thought partner, right? And it's just, I'm blown away at now I can communicate my vision into reality, but it doesn't take away my ability to think through, right? I just released a feature. It started with a four document feature spec. By the time I was done iterating with it, it was one feature spec reusing all of the things in the platform already built that AI just failed to recognize, but it took me to know it.
Yep. And even as you start to build with your agents, they're starting to learn how you communicate too. So my last podcast, I was actually working on a project while having my podcast, because it was, if it had a question, I could easily type it and be like, yes, do this, don't do that, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I built 3 applications in a single day. Yeah. And I released them that next day. So it's ridiculous at what you can do when you apply your own imagination, your own thinking, your own understanding, and then you have a partner that's willing to say, no, this doesn't work. Oh, you're an idiot. Let's do it this way. Like, I think we shame too many people for asking questions, and I think AI takes away that shame.
I agree. Absolutely agree. The asking why, the diving deeper, even the fact that you get an F in school if you just question things. I remember there was a tweet a long time ago. It circulates once in a while. It was somebody in their English class, and they're like, oh, I failed this test because I had a different translation of what the author meant in the book. So I emailed the author and they agreed with me. It's like, we punish abstract thinking, right? How do you see the individual gaining support to continue questioning, right? How do they turn down the noise of don't ask questions?
That's something I'm kind of struggling with right now, because even as an adult, I am getting punished for asking questions. Like it's not like our society doesn't, it's just like glossed over that. One of the great lies I keep on saying, one of the great lies that millennials and Gen Z kind of learned was the adult doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Because we got access to the information to understand that those adults are just going as they are and learning as the same we are. That one idea and one thought was just like so powerful that nobody knows what they're doing, and yet we're shaming people for not. I think that revolution is coming. We're starting to see it across the board. I think millennials and Gen Z are starting to stand up and say, hey, things are not right. We need to start actually questioning these things. I think we empowered a generation to actually do something, and then the next generation got lost in the translation.
I agree with that. And, you know, as I'm reflecting that, one of the things that I always did going into workshops is I would tell everybody that I'm going to take the role of the least knowledgeable person in the room, right? Because I'm taking the permission to ask the dumb questions, right? And the reality is, every time you ask a consensus-driven question, nobody is on the same page, but everybody's afraid to ask it.
Yep.
And it's so powerful to just know.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was watching a Diary of a CEO episode with Kevin Hart. And he actually says, like, I'm the dumbest in the room. Like, I like to be the guy who just questions everything. Just think that I know nothing and explain it to me. Yeah. I'll ask questions. I wrote a whole song on it, by the way. And yeah, like, I think people need to start realizing, like, it doesn't help to be smart. It's actually a hindrance to be smart, because you start thinking you're better than everybody else. You start thinking that you can do it better. Even I fall into that sometimes too, especially in conversations on X. I get blasted all the time for my misinformation. But I prefer to be the dumbest in the room. I would rather fill the room with people who are higher intellect than me, and then be able to question them on everything I'm misunderstanding. Yeah. Even AI, like, if I don't know how to do something and I'm workflow stupid, I can't use websites. I can't use somebody else's website. I don't understand how to go through that process, because I build these things. I understand my own logic. I don't understand other people's. So I actually have my AI sometimes have to walk me through websites and how to use them in order to do them properly. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with mentioning that. I will totally be an idiot if it means I get the end product that I want.
Yeah. But this is the benefit. So I'm doing the same things building out my platforms, because I have a very specific way of working, right? And it's much easier for me now to build the tool to the way that I work than change the way that I work to fit the tool. And we have an ecosystem now at MXP Studio of 9 different platforms that take off little pieces or strategy or tasks or product management and tracking, the content generation and automation of all of that. It is just literally me sitting down and saying, what is the thing I do next? This. How far do I want I've literally done this. I don't like moving my mouse this far because I have a 49-inch screen. Move the button over here.
Yep.
Done.
So there's a great tool called Whisperflow. I don't even use my keyboard or mouse anymore. I just talk.
Yeah.
I just talk into my computer and it does things. I don't touch a keyboard if I don't have to.
It's amazing. I just use voice transcribe. I should try Whisperflow. We're not sponsored.
No.
Whisperflow, sponsor us. We're not sponsored yet.
It's apparently the greatest secret that everybody knows, is what I'm told.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I get so excited about the possibility, but it is, when I do my vibe coding, it is exactly what you said. We have to learn to question. We have to move from the I don't know to the what do I have to ask? And I think this is where a lot of people, even before AI, have struggled. They don't want to ask questions. And now with AI, I agree, it's getting easier because you could do it in private, right?
Yeah.
But you still need to know.
It's funny because I'm actually working on an agent that's supposed to be for the senior citizens to help them protect them from scams online and stuff like that. So essentially what I'm trying to build is an agent for like to interface with them, one that has their behalf. So you send everything to the agent, and then the agent then goes and determines what comes through. And even that is hard because that is tailored to the individual. How do I build a software for somebody else that is so specific to how they interact? That is still something we're working through as a society, as AI developers, as anything. Like, we don't even know the end product of what we're building, and we barely understand what we're building.
Okay, so that brings up a good question, because you talked about being an engineer, right? And now you're talking about knowing what you're building. So when we think about people who are coming in to the workforce, or people who were on one side of the spectrum or the other, right? Spectrum being the product development spectrum, not the other spectrum. Where do you see the transformation in their roles happening? What do they have to do? What do they need to change?
The thing I see prevalent is orchestration more than anything else. It's no longer sitting with the actual code and trying to figure out the logic. It's orchestrating. It's essentially like having a team. Every engineer is going to become a product developer or a product owner, basically working with a team to build out what they expect. You still need to understand the basis. You still need to understand everybody's job. You still need to understand that the programmer, the tester, the designer, who else is involved? The product manager. You need to understand the budgeting. Finance is a big thing, especially when you're dealing in token economics. I run through way too much tokens. But like, you need to understand every role, and that's something that people don't understand. When you go through school and your own thought, you're like, I want to do this because I specifically like this part of the thing. That's kind of going to start going away. You need to be a generalist. You need to be somebody who's not just tied to one identity. You need to be able to switch into a different person or a different worker depending on the context. This kind of goes back to context is key to everything, and people are losing it way too fast in our age of attention spans.
I couldn't agree more. The resurgence of the hybrid role and the generalists, like, the more you're able to think around the context. Oh, I guess that's where context engineering came in. Man, I should have got a context engineering job back in the day.
But even if you think about it from not even from a programming standpoint, think about it from just any standpoint. I can apply my knowledge to science. I can apply it to math. I can apply it to the universe. I can apply it to building a garden. These are things you need to understand is general concepts. How does life happen? Like, how do you grow something, or how do you build something? What do I need to do these things? You need to start thinking past the individual problem and then start thinking about the products around the problem to fix it. We are no longer going to have one solution fits all. We're going to have so many solutions that we have to like think about what we're implementing as we're implementing it in an ecosystem sort of way. So even when we take the environment right now, our ecological system is built of many different sciences between biology and environment studies and like air, like how our environment works. There's so many different concepts that you need to understand in order to understand how the plant grows or where your food comes from. We spent a lot of time hiding these complex systems behind walls and barriers, and those barriers are very fastly falling, and people are just confused and scared.
Would you say barriers, or also would that be layers of abstraction? Like, I'd imagine it could be a good thing. Cloud services is a layer of abstraction over infrastructure. SaaS is a layer of abstraction. And now I'm on a lot of the vibe coding communities, and you see the things, and vibe coding is a layer of abstraction, but very quickly people are ending up seeing the nuts and bolts because it is. And they are so angry about it and always blaming, what do you mean that, my compute's already hit quota? It's like, dude, your queries are awful. Like, this is not working.
The first thing you need really understanding the base helps you with that abstraction. So when I was going through as a programmer, I understood how to build, but I didn't understand why, how it worked to build those things. My entire idea of how to construct something came from a layer of a language on another language, on another language, on a PC that has electrical compute that goes through wires. Like, you need to understand basically how electricity works in order to understand how computers work, in order to understand how to program, in order to understand that language you're trying to use, in order to build the product you want to build. That abstraction, if you understand the base layer, is just working through each iteration. And I like that we're starting to see the reverse of that you have to go through the abstraction, find the base, and then come back up, because it's actually teaching you what's underneath. And yes, if your queries are do this, do that, don't do this, you're not thinking through the process enough to understand what you're trying to do. You should always be like, my first inclination to any LLM is, build me a prompt to help me do this. And from that, I am then going and doing a query on what I actually need to know or do. Very powerful, just being like, I don't know, give me something that will help me know.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful, different way of thinking that I talk to so many people about. Use AI not for the answers, use it to help you see the corners, use it to understand the path that you're walking down. I like what you said, you need to understand electricity. There was, when Carl Sagan did Cosmos, one of the lines he said, to learn to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. It's the same thing. It's like, if you really want to understand how this apple pie was made, you have to understand the fundamental universe.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I just watched a Tom Bilyeu episode where he's discussing his theory of that the universe is a simulation. And he actually is working through why math is the base layer of our existence. Basically, math is our base layer that builds out everything. Very, very compelling. I highly suggest that everybody go watch it. But even him, he's an entrepreneur. He was not technical. Every point that he got to in that understanding came from him learning from his podcast, from his own lived experiences, from his own learnings, from basically everything. We're starting to understand the universe because we're starting to question everything.
Yeah. Okay. I love what you said about learning from the podcast, because this is exactly, you have your media company, I'm doing this podcast as well, and my gut says you started it in part to learn from other people. That's what I did. So tell us more about your journey on that, how it's helping, how it's enriching you.
So it started out with just being angry at the world. I was very pissed off at my government. I spent 8 years trying to fix a system that I was basically told isn't fixable because bureaucracy and blah, 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 blah. It's all smoke and mirrors in government. That is all government is. I don't think it should exist in the way it is. I think it should only be there for building out infrastructure and defense. They should not be telling us how we live our lives. To go on to that, I got very angry, so I started making videos, especially on Trump. I had no clue what Trump was doing. No clue. And I was angry as every Canadian out there. Then I started researching what was going on. I started getting feedback from my videos telling me, no, you don't understand this, you don't understand that. Then I had one of my animals die, Jake. He was
sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I've kind of moved past it, and I'm glad he did in some regard. This is something that's very controversial, but as much as it hurts, I appreciate all the pain that happened in my life because it's helped develop me into who I am. But his death really gave me an understanding of who and what I wanted to be and where I wanted to be. And that's really when I started planning my escape from corporate and doing my own thing, because I started understanding that these systems are in place to help us, but also they hinder us. The more you do yourself, like the more you grow your food, the more you put solar on your house to get away from the electrical grid, the more you have to do things on your own, the more understanding you get at building what you want. So I started out very much just being like, screw Trump, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized like he's trying to reshore the industrial base. He's trying to bring back America as it used to be in the 90s or probably in the 70s, because that's a whole other subject. But then I started understanding that, yes, he is a bad guy. Hands down, he is a bad guy. What he is doing is not inherently bad. What he is doing is dismantling the systems we've put in place for decades that have caused all of the problems that are... People need to start understanding that everything has a consequence, and those consequences have consequences, and those consequences have consequences. It's all in order of magnitude. It's all abstraction. Once you understand the base layer, you start understanding why people are taking these actions. And from that, I started being like, what do I want to do? What do I want to make a difference in? And I started I actually reached out to Podmatch. I was one of the first... When it came up, I was like, oh, this is great. And I started just trying to get guests on because I wanted to question people's understanding of things. Thankfully, I connected with Alex, and like he told me why he did this, and it was a great conversation. It's back in my history, but it really gave me what I wanted to do. I spent the first year trying to like fumble through what I was doing, how I was doing it. My videos, I spent so much money. I have spent so much money building this out, and I regret that. But again, I wouldn't be here if I didn't do that. I didn't learn my lesson. That's why I know economics. I lost a lot of money in the stock market. But it taught me what I wanted to do. And my channel is for change makers. I am going out and I'm questioning the people that are done with the system, that have been in the system, and that are saying, I want something different, so I'm going to go build it. Change makers that come from not just tech guys, they're coming from law, they're coming from government, they're coming from personal media companies. I'm actually going to be interviewing somebody soon who does AI with Netflix. So that'll be a great information session. But it's just trying to highlight that people are making these changes. People are building in ways nobody even understood before, and that we have so many of these problems that if anybody is unsatisfied, they can go out and build their own solution and build a life around that. Like that's something so insane that people just can't grasp. We have so many problems. If you solve a problem, people will pay you because you solved that problem. Yeah. Like it's that simple. But our preconceptions of how we get there, our society that's been telling us, no, like you have to work for a company and do it this way, those things hinder us in terms of actually getting out and doing those things and understanding that there's not one way to skin a cat, as the old saying is, right? Like it's powerful. And I want people to understand that all they have to do is try. There's you don't need permission. You don't need permits. You just need to go and do it. And if somebody has a problem with it, then you deal with it. Like you don't worry about it until it's a problem. Yeah. Otherwise, like just go do it. I'm writing a bunch of songs about that right now because I'm really trying to teach the lesson of the only thing stopping you is your own mind.
It's really the case, right? And you know, I'll give a little bit of credit because I don't want people to walk away blaming themselves that they can't get started, because there is the external force, right? And you mentioned it. Society has taught us, right? This the fear of failure. Even you said you regret spending the money, but the reality is you had to. That was success with extra steps. You don't get to where you are without doing the work. There was a saying that we used to say at Accenture, there's no compression algorithm for experience, right?
Yeah,
you have to go through it. It's just,
you can take the guidelines of other people. Like, I'm not saying disregard everybody's opinion, disregard the information we have available to us. Like, go and learn first. Highly doubt going and learning first. I know that I have to fail in order to learn. That's a fundamental flaw of my brain. I have to experience the pain before I'm like, okay, now I understand. And it's funny I mentioned this because somebody has said we shouldn't be using AI because they delete production databases across the board. And I'm like, in my career, I've deleted 2 production databases as a software engineer. So like, that's nothing new to how it works.
Exactly. Come on. Oh, AI does this. It's like, yes, so does it. Like, new Intern.
And,
like,
and
are
even
you crazy?
Even to that blackmail stuff that was coming out not too long ago, where AI is now blackmailing people in order to do things. They just did research into that, and they found out that there's a whole section of Reddit where it was telling people that AI is self-fulfilling, that it's doomerous, that it will blackmail you. It literally, they have a whole article out now about it, that it was just from somebody's information on the internet. It learned from it, and that thought it was the right way of doing it. Can you explain to me how AI is different than a human?
It's not. It's not. In fact, I think it's closer to a human that we give it credit to. This is the same type of conversation when people say, oh, animals lack intelligence, therefore they lack a soul. You know, this whole thing, humans are glorified, we're the only ones, right? We treat AI the same way. There's no way that it has its own behavior, that it has this thing, that it learned to be human. I mean, it did learn to be human. It recognized all the patterns. When you say LLMs will hallucinate and gaslight you, well, what did you do the last time somebody called you out for being wrong? Did you say, oh yeah, you're right, I'm wrong? Or were you like, no, this is absolutely how it is?
I do catch myself now. I am trying to make an active, concerted effort at being like, okay, I didn't see this. I'm sorry. Let's continue. Because to me, the feelings are what's stopping us from going further. And I'm really trying to override the feeling because I know that that feeling is wrong. Logically, I know that that feeling is wrong, and it's a biological fact of us. One of the things I've started learning about is consciousness and how our brains work. And we are biological animals. Our first instinct is to kill, to have sex, to procreate, to explore. Like, these are all base instincts built into the animal that is human. These are all things that we require as a modern day society to override immediately. You're supposed to immediately override those base instincts and do something completely different. That is not natural, if that's what you want to say it. It's not natural to actually override these things. We are doing it because we are intellectually informed and we understand the consequences of those actions now. But our biology does not understand that. We have not grown we have not evolved past that point where our base instincts are not still inherent in our body.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you and I talked about when we were preparing, was a post-truth world that we're going into. And, you know, I bring it up because it's tying back into how we've evolved. And it's like, we've gone so fast from no information to information to too much information to unrecognizable information. The noise is just insane. How do people start filtering that out?
It's very hard. Like, even I struggle with it sometimes. Like, I know I get caught up in narrative. The best things that I think are really good for people is learning about psychology. Psychology is really the understanding of how your brain thinks through things, how it works, what your reactions are, understanding that everything's psychological. Everything is, especially nowadays, there are so many bad actors trying to change the way you think about something because they personally benefit from it. Just understanding that any information you get may be personally benefiting somebody else is a great tool to understanding anything. It's still hard. I get caught up in it every day. I'm sure there's misconceptions that I don't fully understand. I haven't run into them yet, but I'm sure there's a smarter person out there that can tell me. But again, like it just comes back to having the personal onus of, okay, I fucked up. This is on me, and not blaming it on anybody else. That's the key thing that I think everybody needs to understand. Stop blaming everybody else because you have a problem going on with your thought processes. Blame people if they go and kill somebody or do something externally. In reality, I'm actually writing a book about this right now. There's a difference between digital and reality. And we have blurred that line so much that we can no longer see the internet as different from our day-to-day lives. Yeah. I'm writing a book called Bleeding Digital that goes into how we've done this to ourselves and I'm giving tips on how to use the LLMs to actually find those problems with your own thought process. I'm still working through some queries to better help inform people. But I came across a builder not too long ago. Her name is Mac. She calls AI, I think, a mirror, is the way she sees it. And I completely agree. And I think this is where the tech CEOs and all these people actually building it are losing the plot. The AI we have right now is nothing sentient. It is not something, it is tech. It is essentially a thinking machine, but it is not doing its own thinking. That is something that everybody needs. It's not doing its own thinking. It is taking from what it understands and predicting what it expects is next, exactly as we were. But it's not doing it itself. It is doing it with your input. Guess what you've inputted into it? Your ideas, your thoughts, your consciousness. As you talk with it, it is learning you as much as you're learning from it. So when the tech CEOs are like, oh, it's sentient because it did this. And I'm like, okay, but who are you as a person? What did you do to give that information to the LLM that it's now coming out saying this? The AI right now is a mirror. It is a mirror to who you are, and it's going to give you exactly what you want. You need to start training it to give it what you need, to give you what you need. And there's a big, I'm sure I'm wrong on this, and because I don't have access to the latest models, I'm sure I'm missing something. But as it stands right now, I think the tech guys and CEOs are lying to us in terms of how it works and what it's doing, because they fundamentally don't understand. But I'm hoping with time we can start seeing things. And I really do think we can get to consciousness level ASI and AGI. AGI is something... I still think AGI is still not going to be able to think for itself. But ASI is something that's going to be like super intelligent. It's going to be able, when we hit ASI, we've created a new entity as far as I'm concerned. Everything in between is still a machine trying to figure out what you want.
I mean, I would guess you could say AGI is just, once it gets rolling, it's putting things out there and reacting to the inputs that it gets on its own. I mean, at the end of the day, technically that's what humans do too, right? We're made up of a bunch of multicellular organisms that want things and know how to get it from us, right? How many studies have been coming out showing that the bacteria in your gut will influence what you eat and how healthy you are? Because if you and what fed you think, and what you think, because it knows if it does this, this happens, right? So it's like, are we really that independent ourselves, or is it something else? It's like, I want starchy food, right? Okay, great.
It's actually one of the concepts I'm starting to develop as well. I don't think we're going to get to AGI through LLM expansion, through compute capacity, because It's still the same. It's just giving it more power to do the same. I actually think we need to develop SLMs in clusters that work exactly like our biological cells. Each one has a specific person that reacts to the persons around it, that reacts to the persons around it, and keeps on going until it becomes being that operates both at a cellular level and at a conglomerated level. Actually, Drake Wolff was the one who started making me think about this. He has a book called The Final Business Model. It's about how we're kind of building out the last time anybody's going to build a business a different way. It's a very interesting read, but he's developing his AIs as councils. So everything has to counsel around, like every time he builds something, the council then goes and judges it, then pushes it off to the next council and so on and so forth. I think he's going the right path. I don't know where he's at now, but it's definitely something that people need to start thinking about, that you are not one person. You are a collection of trillions and trillions of different cells.
This sounds a little bit like we're building out cross-functional teams, but getting rid of the humans.
Yes. Yeah.
That worries me a little bit, because that just puts us in our own bias and also isolates us.
I see.
Okay, we're supposed to be optimistic here. Yeah.
My optimism comes from the human ingenuity. As base creatures, we've always wanted to strive for more. We've always want to strive for better. The only reason we're sitting here right now is because somebody thought this up and was like, oh, this would be cool to have. This would be cool. The only reason that Star Trek is something we strive for is because somebody thought it up in 1970 and decided to put it, or 1960s, decided to put that out and be like, here's how I envision the future. We are predicting machines, exactly like the LLM. We predict and then we strive to that prediction. The consequences of those actions are what end up changing those predictions as we go. But we all fundamentally think, here's our North Star, let's head towards it. And you hit every barrier across the way to get there. There is no straight path anywhere. And I think human ingenuity, human creativity, I don't think we can replicate that. I'm finding it very hard to understand how we can make a technology do that. Even if we were to give it general intelligence, even if we were able to give it ASI, become a new cognitive being, I don't think it's reflective, because we're biological beings. We'd have to build in feelings. We'd have to build in chemical reactions. These things are not something we built. They're fundamental building blocks of the universe. And now we're trying to build exactly us, but we don't even understand how us works.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So we kind of say, I always use this example of the difference between innovation and invention. Innovation is the mashing together of existing ideas to solve a problem. Invention is solving a new problem in a novel way. Maybe we can expand that, because what I'm kind of hearing from you is we could say that innovation is a mechanical solution to a repeating problem. Invention is a emotional solution to the way we feel about something. Like, that's where we're not going to replicate, because that's what the human figures out. It's not just a mechanical problem of, okay, we'll use Amazon as an example. The mechanical problem is get package from here to here, right? Let's use Apple. Apple's a better example. I need to make a call, right? The problem that they're solving, I would say, isn't I need to make a call. It's how did I feel when I made that call? And everything they do, the packaging, the experience, the exclusivity, just everything is making you feel good about doing the thing. You can't put a mechanical solution to that.
I think humanity's goal has always been data aggregation. Like, this is something I'm starting to really get into. I think humanity's goal, or the universe's goal, is data aggregation. It is to give us the most simple solution to the problem in front of us, but it's also to get ourselves to understand, get ourselves to learn. I really do think the universe is us trying to just figure the universe out. It is really confusing. I completely understand where like people get lost, because these are high level concepts. These are people, the concepts that are out there have been developed by people with huge IQs that understand complexities that even I don't understand. And just going through them, like it's starting to realize, like I'm starting to realize like they're right, but also like I don't understand why they're right or how. And I think humanity's always been that path of developing towards figuring ourselves out. And when you take into the consideration just the phone call, not even the feeling, this is a thought of being like, I have a friend across the world that I cannot talk to on a daily basis. I need something to do that. That's so human to be like, oh, I'm just going to build a solution that does this, and this to do those things. Like, do you need to talk to that human? If truly you just wanted to like learn, you don't need that human. If you wanted, like, why do you need that other human, right? This is the question you have. And as I work with the AI, as I use it more and more, I feel myself becoming more human. I actually am understanding why people do things, why I do things, what my fears are, how to get past them. I'm a tourism coordinator. For my entire life, I've been antisocial and hated talking to people and like dealing with them. And now I want to. Like, AI is taking off the fear and the preconceptions that I had and allowing me to truly experience what life is. And I don't think anybody's going to learn that on a computer.
I agree. And I think that is kind of the best point as we come to the conversation closing is that is the optimism. That's what I'm most excited about, is that AI is democratizing the ability to learn and be curious for those who are willing to take that risk, I think. Yeah. So as we're closing, any final thoughts? How do we contact you? Where's your show? Tell us a little bit about that.
My final thoughts is just one phrase that keeps on coming to my mind. Imagination is truly your only limit. I wrote a song about that as well. I'm just going to keep on saying I wrote a song about it because as it comes to my mind, I just write songs about them because that's my artistic expression of things. I'm a lyricist. I like to write out lyrics, and now that I have AI to build the music, it's just my soul coming out. So yeah, I really think imagination is truly the only limit to what you can do, especially nowadays. Just try. It's all I ask is just try. And to everybody out there who wants to reach me, you can reach me at anywhere. You can find The Weird Canadian. I own that across the board, thankfully. I've had it for a year. So I actually talked to Brimstone and he said, and I've talked to some patent people. And apparently if you own a name for a certain period of time, you kind of can push people away and say, no, this is mine.
That's awesome.
And I plan on trademarking it if I can. But yeah, anywhere The Weird Canadian, weirdcanadian.ca, and also YouTube. If you want to reach out to me, just honestly, I appreciate the emails. I appreciate any conversation. Like if you want to ask me anything, I seriously reach out to me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. Yeah, it's wonderful having you. This was really fun. I feel great about it. I hope our listeners feel great about it. We have to reverse the doom loop somehow.
The doom loop is the problem.
Yep. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.